Oh boy. It's time for the January 2026 episode of Game Trader Live. I'm Asif Khan. I'm CEO, Editor-in-Chief, EIEIO here at Shack News. Here to talk to you about the stock market. Not just the stock market, all markets. We're going to look at charts. We're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about earnings news. We're going to talk about rumors. We're going to talk about predictive markets. We're going to talk about the price of oil. We're going to talk about the price of semiconductors, gold, silver, individual stocks like Apple, Tesla, GameStop, Nintendo. We're going to look at charts. I don't know how long this episode's going to be. This is my first episode of the year. I was overseas in Japan on December 31st, so I did not do an end of the year show. So I am going to be looking at yearly stock charts to see if I can give you guys some actionable signals or levels to pay attention to. So I guess strap in. I honestly don't know where to start. This is a very weird time. I guess I could kind of just start with the monologue about where I think we are in this cycle. Yeah, I think I should just pull up a chart. Let's I'm going to pull up a chart that I think sums up where we are right now. This is a chart of SanDisk. This is the daily chart. I'm going to pull it out to a week. How about I pull it out to the month? So SanDisk, went private and came back as an IPO last year. It was trading for $34. It hit as high as $676 earlier this week. They're reporting crazy. They reported crazy results. They beat expectations, and then they turned around and issued guidance that was way above what people were thinking. So I'm gonna switch back to my camera real quick. Look at this production value. Such production value. But yeah, they issued guidance saying that they expect their earnings to double sequentially. So next quarter, they expect to earn a midpoint of $13 per share. That's up from $6.20 per share this quarter. They're saying it's on the back of demand from AI data centers. Now, SanDisk makes solid state memory, so NAND, flash. You'd see their stuff in flash cards, not flash cards like these things. Right? I don't know. Can I get that to focus? Can you read that? No? See? No? Anyway. No, I'm not going to eat it. SanDisk, that's money. You can't eat it. Oh, thank you so much for the subscription there, Mamu Bear 1. 46 months in a row. That is just tremendous. We appreciate that support. So yeah, SanDisk going kind of crazy out here in the streets. The stock is up 7%. I guess that must be on the week. For the year, this is just in the last month. SanDisk is up 144%. Which is crazy town. So yeah, there's no real actionable signal there other than it's just going up. At this point, I don't know if I would recommend people chasing it, but this is kind of what I want to get at. Yeah, it's like what's a stock chart I could pick that kind of sums up where we are in this market right now, and I think SanDisk is one of those. We've been reporting on Shack News on the RAM shortages and the NAND shortages. AI data centers have created a lot of demand for this stuff. Hey there, Rumpo. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. And shout out to Denny Von Doom there, our community manager extraordinaire. I'm sure I'll have some clippable moments here for you. Let's see. Let's go around the horn when it comes to the stock market. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up. It closes the month up about 1.7%. On the yearly chart, you had an outside year last year where it broke down below the 2024 range of. This is on the DIA ETF, so 371 and 33 cents. It broke down below that last year, down to 366.32, only to close above the 2024 high, which was 451.55. We closed the Dow at 480 and 57 cents last year. So you see, that's an outside bar. It did not stay inside of the previous year's range. So you have an active buy signal in the Dow Jones above last year's high, which was 489 and 66 cents. Currently trading at 488 and 69 cents. So we are not in a buy signal right now on the yearly chart for the Dow, but those are your levels to pay attention to. So if you were going to act on this, that would also be your stop. So 489 and 66 cents would be your stop. As of right now, you would not be in this based on the yearly chart. We did hit a high of 496.34 earlier this month. Onto the S&P 500, or as I like to look at it, I look at the SPY, which is the ETF representing that. Not an outside year, but you have a hammer to the upside, I guess. So you would just look for continuation of this bull market above last year's high, which was 691 and 66 cents. We are at 691.05, so similar to the Dow, where at one point this year it was, and when I say this year, I'm talking 2026, it was above last year's high. It closed back within that range, and then onto the NASDAQ. NASDAQ 100 is sitting at a doji right now on the month. That means it opened and closed. Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, folks. So right now, trading inside year, let's look at that range. Low of 402.39 and a high of 637.01. This is on the ETF for the NASDAQ 100. For the year, we're, basically right where we started. Opened at 619, closed at 620 and 70 cents here. Why I had that very visceral reaction to this is we had a hammer followed by an inside month. So we ended the year. November was red on the NASDAQ. This was during the lockdown. So the high of November was 635 and 82 cents. The low was 580 and 74 cents. December traded inside of that range. Why do I find this interesting? Good question, Asif. Great question, Asif. Let's answer that for the folks at home. We traded inside of that in December with a low of 628 cents and a high of 629 and 21 cents. So why does this matter? What am I talking about? Am I just jibber jabbering? No. This is a potential rev strat to the downside. And that's kind of interesting because that's not what we're seeing in the other ETFs. We're not seeing that in the Dow Jones, and we're not seeing that in the S&P 500. That means there may be a divergence occurring. And boy howdy, do we have reasons for this possible divergence. So, we broke out above the high of that inside month of 629 and 21 cents. We got above that in January of this year. We hit as high as 636.60 cents. But we closed back inside of that. So we broke it out to the upside. We broke equilibrium only to close back inside at 620 and 67 cents. This means that there would be a short signal to the downside on the monthly chart in February if the Qs drop below 607.05. Now, why do I find that interesting? Good question, Asif. You guys know about that company, Microsoft? You guys hear about Microsoft? You guys know much about Microsoft? You guys know about that company? You guys ever hear about Microsoft? No? Heard a thing or two about them? Maybe kind of, sort of? Heard about some Xbox nerds? Well, I got an interesting story for you folks about Microsoft. They've invested a lot into AI. And their stock took a dump this month. Huh. You had an inside month and down sell signal in Microsoft. How horrible. This is very interesting to me. Because they beat their earnings expectations, they beat the revenue expectations, but they said something on the conference call that I think has people spooked. $650 billion. Let me repeat that. $650 billion of their cloud revenue guidance is attributable to one client. That client, OpenAI. That's a lot of concentration for your fastest growing division, right? It appears to have spooked Wall Street. The stock has had a horrible month, down 11% on the month, traded inside month in December, right? So you had a range of 524.96 on the high side in November, 464.89 on the low side of November. December, it traded inside that range with a low of 470.88 and a high of 493.50. So it broke below 470.88, and that is a sell signal. So the month's over. We had a monthly sell signal, but it happened so late in the month. This happened this week, right? Like, you look at this week, it broke down. It started breaking down a couple weeks ago, but the real outside week to the downside happened here. So you would have a continuation next week if it falls below 421.02. But on the monthly chart, it's the same number, right? 421.02. So you'd have a continuation of the downside if Microsoft continues to go down there. Now, why am I pointing this out right after talking about the NASDAQ 100? Good question, Asif. Because I just pointed out the NASDAQ 100 has a potential rev strat to the downside. And what's going to cause it to keep going lower is if tech stocks sell off, right? And the NASDAQ 100, let's look at the Q holdings. The NASDAQ 100 holdings are, let me see. Number one holding of the NASDAQ 100 is NVIDIA. Number 2 is Apple. Can you guys guess what number 3 is? Anyone want to guess? You guys want to guess? I know. It's Microsoft. Congratulations, you've won nothing. But guess what? If the weakness continues at Microsoft, stock might go down. It might drag the entire Qs down with it. So I do think it's really interesting what we're seeing specifically in the software space. Salesforce, also down. Oracle, also down. But Microsoft, the largest software company on earth, down materially. So these are very large companies. I want to round out the top 10 holdings on the NASDAQ 100 for people. Number 4 is Amazon. Number 5 is Tesla. Number 6 is Meta. Google represents two different, Google, if you combine them, is actually number 3 above Microsoft, but they have 2 classes of stock. Avago, Broadcom is number 9, and number 10 is Palantir. Palantir also inside month and down. Are we seeing a trend, anybody? I think it's kind of interesting that the NASDAQ 100 did not go inside month and down, because it's 100 NASDAQ stocks. It's not just one. It's not just these top 10. Even if these top 10 do represent the majority of the ETF, we are starting to see cracks in the tech bubble, I guess is my point here. And we don't have NVIDIA numbers out yet, but we did have Apple numbers. Apple reported this month. Apple read on the month. Apple up on the week. Outside data, the upside on Apple. They reported earnings yesterday. Apple's earnings were great. They had a record quarter, $143 billion in revenue. We're talking about very successful quarter for Apple. Even if Tim Cook is handing over business to Google, of all places. But we have Apple out with earnings last night. They beat revenue and EPS expectations. I think one of the most interesting things that they said on the call was that they had 48% gross margin. That means for every dollar of revenue Apple makes, they generate 48 cents of profit. That's pretty wild for a tech company. And someone who's followed Apple, I don't know, since I was in college, I've been following this stock, so over 20 years. I've been a shareholder that whole time. This is some of the highest profit margins I've ever seen from Apple, and it's at a time where there's tariffs and there's fear of RAM price shocks. Apple's CEO Tim Cook said that they do not expect RAM prices to affect them in the next quarter, which is interesting because if you believe everyone on the internet, we're all doomed because prices of RAM has skyrocketed for us consumers. It does not appear that Apple is experiencing the same level of pain as the average consumer because they're able to negotiate contracts on 12, 18, 24-month bases. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Apple did beat both on the revenue and the earnings per share line. So they are kind of bucking this trend that I'm talking about. And I think it's an interesting point that I'm making here, that it's not all tech companies that are suffering right now. It appears to be software companies. And I'm glad Scanner is in the chat bringing this up. Who knew that not being able to sell the AI that you have ignored your multiple core businesses for might backfire on your market cap? Well, Satya Nadella has redefined what Office is, Scanner. So now there's plenty of Copilot users because you can't use Windows 11 without using Copilot. It's everywhere. Every single thing you do on Windows 11 is now branded as Copilot. Office 365 has been rebranded as Copilot. The freaking Notepad app uses Copilot. I actually uninstalled Microsoft Paint because it had Copilot in it, and I installed the Windows 7 version. But if you listen to Satya Nadella, Scanner, if you listen to the CEO of Microsoft, he thinks things are doing great. There's no problem at all. Everything's doing fine. Everything's going according to plan. There's plenty of Copilot users. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with Copilot. It's doing great. You're just wrong. You're not paying attention. But in reality, yeah, Copilot is awful and Windows 11 is terrible. It's quite comical how they try to move the goalposts. Yeah, it is. I know. I fucking hate Windows 11. Just from a pure anecdotal standpoint, I'm talking to you on a Windows 11 computer. I have had more problems with this operating system than I have the last 3 Windows operating systems combined. And the problem, Denny, is when you uninstall Copilot and then you have to do a Windows update, they reinstall it. So it's like every single time you do a Windows update, and everyone knows there's a ton of Windows updates, right? You have to update all the time because there's security issues or there's glitches. They've created so many bugs with Windows 11. You have a bug that prevented it from being able to restart your computer. They had one that you couldn't log. It was prompting people to log in to the Windows Store to use Notepad. But Notepad wasn't even on the Windows App Store because it predates Windows. Like, there's so many things wrong with Windows 11 right now. But, forget that. Their cloud business is slowing. So they grew, last quarter they were growing their Azure business at 40%. This quarter they only grew at 39%. So Microsoft stock went down because they were growing their revenue in their fastest growing segment only by 39%. That's not good enough. So you got an inside day in Microsoft here going into the end of the month. So if you want to short Microsoft or go long Microsoft on Monday, your risk range would be a buy signal above 430, 60 cents, and a sell signal below 426, 45 cents. But I mentioned already that there is a potential continuation of the January monthly sell signal. So now we're into a situation where you're trading inside year in Microsoft, but down on the month, down on the week, down on the day. That's what you call time frame continuity to the downside. I'm not a betting man, but if I were to bet on which direction Microsoft's probably going in the near future, it's probably lower. And if it's going lower, those are your price points to pay attention to. On the daily chart, this would only be a sell signal for Monday below, and then you have to be out of this trade by the end of Monday unless you're one of those bold swing traders. But below 426.45 per share, Microsoft would be a short on Monday. But if you want to short it for the entire month of February, look for a break below 421 and 2 cents. Now that those price points I'm giving you, those would be the prices at which to cover your short if it reverses against you. So you get out of it. If it goes back above that, you get out of the trade. I'm not actually trading this market right now, but I am pointing out trade opportunities for people watching. And thank you all for tuning in today. But yeah, Microsoft, time frame continuity to the downside. So you can look for opportunities to get short Microsoft here, which is very interesting. Because what a darling it was last year, right? It could do no wrong. Microsoft hit an all-time high of $5.55 and 45 cents per share last year. We're talking about a stock that during the tech bubble of 2000 hit $53.22, right? It hit 10 times its valuation in this current bull market or bubble, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to focus too much on Microsoft, though, right? Other companies reported this week. Dealer's choice. What should we talk about next? I mean, there's so much shit I need to get to today. What do you guys say? You guys want to talk Tesla? Tesla next? What do you say? Tesla was out with earnings this week. It's red on the year. We are inside year. So last year, crazy ass range because, the whole Zig Heil. We hit a low of 214.25 per share last year and a high of 498 and 83 cents over there. That was the all-time high of the stock. We're trading inside of that range right now on the year. Red on the year. Monthly chart, it was unable to stay inside. It's kind of been a volatile stock. Inside quarter, but the quarter is still developing here. On the monthly chart, we are down. Weekly chart, we are down. Daily chart, inside day. So if you want to be bold and try to trade this on either side, you would have a short trade below 422.70 cents per share and a long trade at above 439.88 cents per share. I want to get to some headlines from Tesla, and then I think I will go back to Apple because I do think there's some interesting stuff happening there. Tesla is in trouble. Tesla reported its first annual revenue decrease in company history. This is the first time as a publicly traded company that Tesla has seen a decline year over year in revenue. So you're talking about $94.827 billion in revenue, down from $97.69 billion last year. And it was, who saw this coming? I know what you mean. Yeah, so Tesla actually doing quite poorly on the revenue front, and it has to do with vehicle demand. But man, This is how I know they're in trouble. Elon Musk says they will stop production of the flagship Model S and Model X EVs next quarter. Why? So they can build fucking robots in Fremont. This company, I don't think they're even a car company anymore. I think they're an EV. They still make EVs, but I guess they're focused on autonomous EVs, which they haven't been able to deliver. There've only been 10 robotaxis, maybe 50 robotaxis in Austin, Texas. They said, oh, it's finally unsupervised, but then people found out there were 2 trailing Teslas behind every unsupervised robotaxi. So yeah, this is horrible. The only reason I ever bought a Tesla was the Model S. So like, this would be like if Mercedes got rid of the S-Class, or if BMW got rid of the 7 Series. You know what I mean? Like, this is a huge red flag. If Tesla was doing well, wouldn't they just build another factory for the robots? Why would they have to repurpose the Fremont plant? And they're saying we might have capacity to build 1 million robots per year. I do still drive a Tesla. I have a Model X. I have a Model X and a Model S in my garage. Hey, Lucci Dober, thanks for tuning in. But yeah, we're talking about Tesla here. They had a few red flags in their quarter. They did beat expectations on the revenue, and barely on the revenue, but they did beat earnings expectations. But that's largely due to cost cutting. And they did say that they expect to spend $20 billion this year on research and development. They only have $43 billion on hand, and it stands to reason that they might actually be a cash-burning company this year. That's not great. Which leads me to the next fucking Tesla story. Elon Musk is thinking about merging SpaceX into Tesla instead of doing an IPO, but then they also might merge with XAI, which, by the way, Elon Musk had Tesla invest $2 billion into his XAI company during the quarter. So, SpaceX and Tesla might become the same stock because he's trying to forego an IPO, because when you do an IPO, you have to pay these bankers and these broker dealers to be in the syndicate and help sell your stock. So if you just have Tesla acquire SpaceX, SpaceX becomes publicly traded without having to do the song and dance required of an IPO. But this is super fucked up. This is not the first time he's done this. Elon Musk had Tesla acquire Solar City and basically bail out his brother and himself from a poor solar investment. So this wouldn't be the first time this has happened. But the idea that SpaceX would merge into Tesla, all of the blue check marks on Twitter who have Elon boners still, I don't know how on earth you still have an Elon boner, but apparently people still get boners from Elon. These people are eating this shit up. The stock went up 3% yesterday on this news. They were super happy to hear about this, because who doesn't want to own SpaceX? I don't. I thought I was investing in a fucking EV company. Now it's a fucking robot company where the CEO seems obsessed about how great the hands are. Such fantastic robot hands. Why is Elon Musk so obsessed with the hands on the robot? Anyway, I digress. Tesla. It's a mess. I don't really have anything to say about the stock other than, buyer beware at this point. I don't, just from a fundamental standpoint, I think that Tesla is in trouble. Tesla is ramping up expenses. They just killed off their 2 highest priced products. So they're going to lower margin, low price. They're going all in on Cybercab, which Elon Musk said we might not even be able to call it Cybercab. It's a very strange moment for Tesla. It's a moment of transition, and it's a moment where I think the stock could go materially lower. So I'm not saying there's any technical reason to sell it here. There's not. It's trading inside year. It's red on the year. It's red on the quarter, trading inside quarter. It was red on the month, was unable to stay inside, but there's no actionable signal except for on that daily chart, which I pointed out earlier. Back to Apple. There's a report out there that Apple, Apple has, Apple's chosen Google Gemini to help them make Siri not shit. Siri has been shit for what, over a decade now? And they're finally doing this? Like, everyone's applauding, like, oh, Tim Cook, great job, finally helping, finally caring about AI. It's like, no, dude, we're not gonna give Tim Cook any flowers for this. This is awful. What have they been spending all this money on in research and development at Apple? This just so you could cut a check to Google? And there's a report out of Mark Gurman over there at Bloomberg is reporting that Apple and Google, this deal basically happened because Apple's already using Anthropic's Claude inside the company. They're using Claude code. They're using a lot of Anthropic models to help themselves develop internally. But apparently, Anthropic wanted $3 billion per year to license Claude to improve Siri, and it was going to escalate by 100% every year for the next 3 years. So that means $6 billion next year, $9 billion the year after. Where are they putting the headphone jack this time? There isn't one. I don't think so. Hey Siri, do you have a headphone jack on this phone? It didn't even reply with voice. It said, I couldn't find anything belonging to Jack called phone linked in your iCloud account. This is why they're paying Google. Siri sucks. Big time. But, like, it's such a failure, man. Like, if AI is important to Apple, why not acquire Anthropic or Perplexity or one of these models that's better than your shit model? But just, after all these years of Google running circles around them with features in Android and Google Assistant being better, even the native Google app on iPhone being better than most of the native Siri features, it's just interesting. Apple's been grasping at straws, internally using Claude, and then last year kind of shoving in ChatGPT in Siri queries, but now moving to Google. It just seems like Apple doesn't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to AI. When it comes to their phones, they sold a shit ton of phones. They had a record iPhone revenue last quarter. It was $85 billion of revenue. But I think at some point, it's obvious. Apple's not innovating. Like, I think the most innovative thing at Apple these days is their semiconductors. The M-series chips and the A-series chips. And what they've done on that front is really impressive. But that just leads to iterations on existing product models. You have the Mac. Yeah, every year it's a better Mac. Sometimes it's worse when they ruin the keyboard. Or they add that... Remember the weird function buttons that they had at that one point? The touch bar? But for the most part, Mac's gotten better over the long arc of time. iPhone's getting better. But every year now, why are you upgrading your iPhone usually? Because your battery sucks. Or, but I can afford a new iPhone every year. I don't buy a new iPhone every year. I just wait till my battery sucks. But really, if you're obsessed with technology, you buy an iPhone because Macs do have headphone jacks. You buy an iPhone, because there's a new camera, or the processor's better, maybe the screen's nicer, maybe the form factor fits you better, maybe you like the color, maybe you like orange. Apple did buy an Israeli startup, very creepy, Q.AI, I believe it was called. They're a company that is for listening to, using microphones, like computer hearing of whispers. So it's like, hey Siri. Hey Siri. Mm-hmm. Oh, now she hears me. But yeah, apparently they already bought it. But yeah, at this time where everyone's obsessed with AI, Apple Intelligence has been a categorical failure. And I don't know. I think it's interesting in that, they're kind of insulated in that when this AI bubble does burst, their incompetence will keep them afloat because they're not really ahead of anyone when it comes to AI. But yeah, I got it. I don't know, Donovan. Yeah, any other thoughts on Apple you want me to hit? Macintosh revenue was down year over year in the quarter. iPad revenue was up. They said that India revenue was doing well. Asian revenue was doing well. I mean, they're up in every geography. But it's important to note they increased prices. And they also have a CEO who kisses glorious leaders' feet. And if as long as you kiss Trump's feet, you don't have to pay the tariffs. I actually have a screenshot here illustrating Tim Cook giving Donald Trump a plate of glass. Look, you know, I love my MacBook Pro. I bought it about a little over a year ago now. But yeah, that's actual thing that happened. Tim Cook gave Donald Trump a plate of glass on a gold stand. He was also at the screening of the Melania documentary on Saturday. So that's what Tim Cook's doing. Yeah, I think I covered Apple for the most part. Man, what next? It's been a whirlwind, guys. Like I'm gonna hit. I got this is Game Trader, right? Let's talk about video games. So I believe Donovan wrote this article over there at Shack News, the news editor writing this. Video game company stocks fall after Google launches Project Genie. Have you guys seen this Project Genie? If you haven't, how about we watch this trailer together? What do you guys say? Sound like a plan? Would you guys like to watch a trailer with me? So there's Genie. Project Genie. Now, this is a open world generative AI project where you can prompt it with text, video, images, like you can put, they showed someone put their ragdoll cat into an open world. This caused havoc in the stock market today. I'm going to just go down our Game Trader universe, right? At one point today, Take-Two was down 10% on this news. Take-Two, releasing GTA fucking 6 this year, was down because of that video. That video caused people to sell the company that's making GTA 6. Do you understand how stupid you have to be to see that video and think, I should sell my Take-Two stock? That GTA 6 isn't going to sell because Google has a fucking generative AI thing for open worlds. Because Rockstar doesn't know how to make games anymore. I'm going to sell my Take-Two stock because there's no way for GTA 6 to be any good now that I can put a Shiba Inu in a bullshit open world. I'm going to sell my Take-Two stock. Herder. Are you fucking serious? This market is so busted. This market is so fucking broken. Just how broken is this market, Asif? This fucking broken. This is how fucking broken it is. This is how stupid Wall Street is. You know what this reminds me of? I was there. I was at GDC when Google announced Stadia. And Stadia was going to destroy the entire video game industry with the power of the cloud and AMD processors. You guys remember Google Stadia? Google Stadia was going to kill the industry. Selling Take-Two on that video. Are you out of your fucking mind? You want to hear something a little even crazier? Look, I don't like Unity. They got all sorts of problems. Unity's stock was down 30% at one point today. 24%. It closed down 24% today. Unity stock closed down 24% today. Because now everyone is going to use Google to make they're going to use generative Google AI. Guys, it's all going to be Google. It's going to be Google. Google's going to be the engine for everything now. Sell your Unity stock. Unity is like 80% of mobile apps use Unity. It has nothing to do with open world generation. Sell your Unity stock. See, what other stocks were down today? CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red. CD motherfucking Project Red. CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red. I don't know, guys. Do you guys like The Witcher? Do you think The Witcher 4 might be a big game? Not anymore. Because Google has a DeepMind generative AI thing for open worlds. That means that fucking Witcher 4 is no longer a good idea. No way will The Witcher 4 have any chance against the power of Google DeepMind's Project Genie. Are you out of your fucking mind? How broken is this market? This broken. That's how fucking broken this market is. You're gonna sell CD Projekt Red down 9% today because of a Google video. Let's see, are there any other video game companies? Let me see. Where is another video game company? Are there any other ones? Who's left? Maybe Sony? Sony was actually up on the day. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Is there a video game company I talk about on this show a lot? I'm trying to think. I wonder, is there a video game company that I'm missing? Oh, yes, Ubisoft. That's right. How did Ubisoft handle this news? That's a good point. Sega? Well, yeah, I think you're right, Lucci. Let's see how did Ubisoft handle this news? Ubisoft was down 7% on this news. This is already in Turd Town. They're talking about Captain Turd of Turdsylvania here. Look at this turd. There's not much meat left on the bone here. We're talking a 90-cent stock. 99 cents. Traded inside week. After that horrible week it had last week. But yeah, they sold Ubisoft. But I feel like I'm forgetting something. Is there like another company? Is there like another video game company that makes open world games? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think here. Is there a... I don't know. What is this? It's covered in dust. Apparently no one plays these anymore. Is that... What does that say? Oh, that's right. Nintendo. Nintendo was down 5% on this news. They sold Nintendo on this. They were like, you know what? We gotta sell Nintendo. Google has an app that you can generate Breath of the Wild. You can generate Breath of the Wild with this. So now you must sell Nintendo. I want to show you folks a clip I saw on social media that's just blatant copyright infringement. Blatant copyright infringement from this Google product. And just ask yourself. I have a question for you folks at home here as we watch this together. This was generated in DeepMind with this Project Genie. Do you think Nintendo sees this and is like, we're gonna murder them? I want to point out a couple things about this clip. That stamina bar is not decreasing right now. But it looks like Breath of the Wild. I was able to create this with a series of prompts. What if we made a shittier Breath of the Wild? At a lower frame rate than even the Nintendo Switch version? The stock was down 5% on this. How broken is this market? This is how broken the market is. People saw this video and they sold their Nintendo stock. Riddle me this. Is Nintendo a litigious company? Do they tend to sue? What do you think Nintendo thinks of this? What do you think Nintendo is thinking today seeing this? Doesn't this blatantly infringe on their intellectual property? They're the most ruthless litigators when it comes to defending their intellectual property. There is no shot. And then he's so this guy Min Choi, he broke down how he did it. Like he's like, here's how I did it. Here's my prompts. selling your Nintendo stock because of that. Selling your Nintendo stock because of that video. I bought. I bought. Last episode, it was the end of November. I think I did an episode. I hadn't bought any shares yet. Yes, Greg. Down 5% over a crumbly 10% 10 frame per second Zelda video that's only 30 seconds long. Yes. Now, it's not a video. It's an interactive world, Greg. They created an interactive world. Yeah, why was it down before that, Lucci? Boy, howdy. All sorts of reasons. I talked about it on the show. Now, here's a little strat. This is the strat. I'm not going to talk about fundamentals because I don't think there's a fundamental reason for this. Nintendo hit the top of the triangle. Why is this triangle so important? This is a series of uptrend. This is an uptrend. The uptrend has been in place since 2015, basically. I call this the switch uptrend. It hit the switch uptrend. Look, at every time it's hit this uptrend, the stock has sold off. Almost 40%. Every time. And I said it when it was at 24. I was like, it's not going to surprise me if it sells off into the end of the year. And that's exactly what happened. But, boy howdy, did my colleagues in the industry have a lot of things to say about Nintendo on Twitter. And a lot of rumors have been spread about Nintendo. So here's the interesting thing, Lucci. You had an inside month in July, followed by an outside month in August, followed by an inside month, followed by a potential reverse rev strat to the upside, only to fail and break down to the downside in December, when rumors started spreading that Nintendo Switch 2 does not have any demand. And Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo's going to have to increase the price because RAM prices are out of control. So Nintendo has fallen from $24 down to $15.42 at the time of this video. I started buying somewhere around in the 15, or sorry, in the 7, I started buying, you know what, I can just tell you the prices. Why not be extra transparent with you folks? I feel like this is the time where I will be extremely transparent with you folks. I don't really talk about this on Twitter, but I'm here. I'm talking about what I need, what I am doing. So my first purchase I bought at $17.63. I then bought at $16.42. I then bought at $15.63. I bought at $15.83, and then today I bought at $15.50. Yes, Greg, your chats are coming through. I do see what you're saying, even though you're on Facebook for some reason. So those are I bought 5 chunks of Nintendo here in the last 2 months. Those are the price points I did it at. I did it in that manner because I know I suck at timing the market. And yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to buy that stock. But yes, so it's down for a couple of reasons. It's down for technical reasons. The stock chart, it hit that uptrend and it turned around. And it's also because there's a lot of fear mongering going on. We had this guy at the game business post something without a true source claiming that Nintendo had a bad Christmas. Now, you could argue that they did. Or you could also just look at their launch and say, hey, this is the fastest selling console of all time. It's doing quite well. It's doing extremely well in Japan. And, they didn't have a, what do you call it? They didn't have a holiday game, is what people are saying. Although Pokemon Legends ZA came out during the holiday quarter and had a bundle. So yes. Does that answer your question, Lucci? Awesome. So yeah, that's why it's down. And yeah, putting my money where my mouth is. I have been buying, I would say aggressively. This is the first time in over 10 years that I bought Nintendo stock, and it's been extremely aggressive. I shouldn't say 10 years, maybe like 5 to 10 years. I guess since the launch of the original Switch, this is the first time I've been buying stock. But yeah, I'm a little bullish on this. Mainly because the Mario movie's coming. Let's see, what the hell else, man? What a show. I'm trying to go through as much as I can here. It's been a whirlwind. Um any other questions about Nintendo before I move on, guys? I think it's a buy here. My target, I don't talk about this on social media, so I'm just talking to you folks watching. I believe this stock can hit $40 in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's the risk reward that I'm using. I think it has downside to a worst case scenario $10, but most likely this $12 area down here. That's where it bottomed out before the Mario movie, when it sold off from the when it hit $16.50 and then sold off all the way down to $9.26. That was in 2023. That was right before the last Mario movie released. So now we have a similar setup, an even more brutal sell-off. And I think there's an opportunity here. But yeah, any other questions about Nintendo before I move on? Sorry, I didn't have the chart up. This is what that part I was talking about. This was 2020 down to 2023. There was a 3-year bear market, or 2.5-year bear market in Nintendo. Only for it to be one of the greatest buying opportunities, because you bought it at $9. Even if you did, you're still up $6. At one point, you were up over $12. It's a huge drawdown. The other thing I think is interesting to point out: the entire move from April, when they revealed the Switch 2 at that direct, to now, been entirely erased. So it's like it never happened. The stock is acting as if the Nintendo Switch 2 never happened. But it did. So yeah, Nintendo reports earnings next week. So I don't know. Maybe I'll provide an update after we get the actual results. I would keep it locked on shacknews.com. We will be reporting late night here in America on Monday night. Tuesday morning in Russia and in Japan and in Australia. But yeah, we stay up late and we report factual information from the source, and we list our sources. I know, what a concept. But yeah, height of idiocy, selling all these game companies. Like, honestly, I might have to buy CD Projekt Red. I think The Witcher 4 is going to be great for them. And I don't know about Take-Two. I still think it's a little pricey here. And yeah, I will say this. We haven't had a chance to talk about Ubisoft much since the whole shit show. They shut down 6 game projects. They canceled the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. If you can't make money off of the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, I don't think you can make money. So I'm stuck. I own this stock still. Like, I would not recommend owning Ubisoft. I think they're tanking their stock on purpose so that they can take it private. I think the Guillemot family is intentionally tanking performance. There is no way that they can be this incompetent. No way. And this whole reorg and saying that they're going to invest in generative AI for gamers, like, there's no way they can be this stupid. It has to be a tank job. I would not be surprised if the Guillemot family buys the entire company out from under shareholders. And this has all been a ruse, because they couldn't afford to do that when it was at 25. but they sure as shit can do it down here for €500 million. So I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I was wrong. Ubisoft does not provide a value down here. It's a turd. It's a turd, but it's in Turd Town for a reason. And it's because they're executing terribly. At this point, I'm just holding on to a long-term capital loss that I could sell maybe to offset a long-term capital gain in the future. But it's also priced like an option. So if it goes to zero, so what? I didn't put a lot of my money in it. It was less than a fraction of a percent of my money that I put into this. So it's very speculative. But yeah, it didn't work. It's down. I'm losing money. I'm down about 50% personally on it. But yeah, my bad. Don't buy Ubisoft. Until there's some sign of improvement. And there hasn't been. At this point, you really have to wonder what the fuck they're doing. And yeah, inside month and down. So you look for a continuation below 90 cents per share if you wanted to short it. I wouldn't short it here either, though. Like, it's already dead. Leave it alone from The Simpsons or whatever. But yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I think the Guillemot family has done a horrible job managing the company. They should be ashamed of themselves. And their shareholders should hold them accountable. It's disgusting what's going on there. And I feel for all these studios, too. Really talented people. Some great artists. Some great developers. Across the Ubisoft family of games. And the games that they decide to let live and the ones that they're killing off, I don't understand the reasoning. I really don't. But if you can't make money off the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, you can't make money. You don't know what you're doing. At all. What else should we talk about, guys? That's right. We had some Federal Reserve news this week. So, President Trump, our glorious leader, has nominated Kevin Warsh for Federal Reserve Chair to succeed Jerome Powell. He posted to Truth Social about this. He actually, sorry, I gotta look at this to make sure. Yeah. He said, I'm going to read this for you folks. I'm pleased to announce that I am nominating Kevin Warsh to be the chairman of the board of the governors of the Federal Reserve System, all in caps. Kevin currently serves as the Shepard Family Distinguished Fellow in Economics at the Hoover Institution and lecturer at Stanford Graduate School of Business. He's a partner of Stanley Druckenmiller at the Duquesne Family Office, LLC. That means he's a hedge fund manager. He has conducted extensive research in the field of economics and finance. He issued an independent report to the Bank of England proposing reforms in conduct of monetary policy in the UK. Parliament adopted the report's recommendations. Kevin Warsh became the youngest Fed governor ever at 35. A member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System from 2006 to 2011, as Fed Reserve representative to the group of G20, and board's emissary to the emerging and advanced economies in Asia. In addition, he was administrative governor, managing and overseeing the board's operations, personnel, and financial performance prior to his appointment to the board from 2002 until 2006. Kevin served as special assistant to the president for economic policy. If people were keeping score at home, that was the Bush administration. I don't know if you guys remember what happened after 2006, but it wasn't great. It was 2007 and 8 and 9. Kevin served as special assistant, and executive secretary of the White House National Economic Council, Previously, Kevin was a member of mergers and acquisitions at Morgan Stanley, serving as vice president and executive director. I've known Kevin for a long period of time and have no doubt that he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best. On top of everything else, he is central casting. What? And he will never let you down. Congratulations, Kevin. President Donald J. Trump. Woof. So that's not the only Federal Reserve news we had this week, guys. The Federal Reserve decided to not increase interest rates. And that caused a lot of pin action. What is pin action? It's when one thing happens and it kind of causes a series of chain reactions, right? So let's talk about silver. This is the long-term chart of silver. This is a weekly bar chart for silver. Silver started last year, the ETF, at $26.22. Earlier this week, it hit a high of 109.83. It's now down 16% on the week. Silver crashed 33% today at its low. This is because the Fed didn't lower interest rates. The dollar actually strengthened because the Fed is in a very difficult spot. We are experiencing inflation. But we're also in a weakening economy. Unemployment is on the increase. Things are not great. A lot of Americans are suffering because costs are very high, wages haven't gone up. They're in a very tough spot because they can't increase rates because that's going to hurt the financial sector, but they can't lower rates because that's going to make inflation worse. So everyone, earlier this week, and I think last week too, we saw a flight away from the US dollar towards commodities. It's not just silver. Here's gold. Gold hit a high of, I'm looking at the GLD just because it's the ETF, it's easier to pull up, but let me find the actual gold spot price. Gold hit an all-time high on Wednesday, January 28th of $5,573.90 per ounce of gold. It is now trading $1,000 lower. This is the largest decline of an asset in the history of markets. We're talking over $1 trillion was evaporated from the gold market in less than a week. In like a day. Over $1 trillion evaporated from the gold market in a day. How broken is this market? This broken. And this is why I think this leads me to an interesting point in the show. I talk about charts a lot on this show, but I try to give you the context of what happened, right? Catalyst, fundamental catalyst. I talk about earnings a lot. It's called fundamental analysis. I do bottoms-up analysis of companies and commodities to see supply and demand and look for opportunities. I look for turds. I call it turd mining. I look for cheap stocks that are priced like garbage that can turn into gold someday. But when you see the volatility in this market, and hey, thank you for the follow. But yeah, if you see the volatility in this market right now, it's quite terrifying. What is going on here? It's not just gold. It's not just silver. It's not just SanDisk. You know, it's not just Microsoft. It's everything. This is the everything bubble. I think this is the biggest bubble in the history of mankind. And when it bursts, it may take 100 years for us to recover. And it's happening at a time of intense greed. And it shows up in all sorts of different ways. Like, I want to show a couple of videos here that I just find incredibly troubling. So you guys know about like Polymarket, Kalshi, these predictive markets? You guys heard about these things? I have a clip here that highlights how fucked up the market is. How broken is this market? It's the press secretary for the White House. Why am I going to show you this video? Just watch.
Thank you. In November of last year. And so I would encourage everyone to take a look at the website. It's quite well done. And thank you all very much. It's great to be back with you.
Thank you.
In November of last year.
Let's watch it again.
So I would encourage everyone to take a look at the website. It's quite well done. And thank you all very much. It's great to be back with you.
Thank you.
She looks at the clock. She looked at the clock, Sam. So there was a bet on Kalshi, one of these predictive markets. How long will Carolyn Levitt speak for the White House press briefing? 65 cents or above was at 98 cents. Someone came in and bought it knowing that she was going to run off stage. The United States has a gambling problem. It's showing up everywhere. Everywhere you look. And it's like, the level of corruption. You know who's the strategic advisor to Kalshi? Donald Trump Jr. is a strategic advisor to Kalshi. I think he's on the board of Polymarket. Yeah, Polymarket is Donald Trump Jr. is he's a strategic advisor to Polymarket. So the bet was 65 seconds. She looks up at the clock and knows that she has to get out of there in the next half a minute. Next half a second. She got down to that close. It was 65 seconds, Lucci. 65 or above had 98 cents. So people who were betting the 2 cents made $1. They made 50x their money. Because they knew she was going to make it appear as if it was going over 65 seconds. This is insider trading on things that shouldn't even have markets. Why are we betting on how long a fucking press conference is going to be? How fucking broken are we as a society that we need a market for betting on how long a fucking press conference is? How fucking broken is this market? This broken. This is how fucking broken the market is. We're betting on where raindrops are gonna fall. In this world, do you know how antiquated I feel as someone who does like actual research? When this is how people are getting rich right now, and it's a completely rigged game? I see Scanner talking about the same thing happened with the Maduro grab. You're absolutely right. I can go to Polymarket right now and show you just how many fucked up things are being bet on. Like, it's fucking insane to me what is happening on Polymarket. We are so broken as a society. Let's see what's trending on Polymarket, guys. You guys want to see what's trending? Oh, let's bet on the Fed decision. 50 basis point decrease, only 2%. 25 per basis point, no change, 92%. Why are we betting on the Federal Reserve? Who gives a fuck? Like, why is this even a thing? And this market has $17 million traded in it already for a Fed decision in March. Who's going to be the first person to leave the Trump cabinet? $1.7 million has traded in this market already. OpenAI IPO closing market cap. People are betting on where the market cap of OpenAI will be. They haven't even announced their IPO. Only $972,000 have traded so far in that market. Look at this. Israel strikes Iran by tomorrow. $15.7 million have been traded in this market. There's only a 5% chance. Great time to buy. Speculative buy. Let's bet on murder. Let's bet on war. How broken is this market? Will the U.S. acquire part of Greenland? Why are we betting on this shit? Why has $7 million been spent betting on this shit? How is this legal? $342 million was spent betting on who Trump was going to nominate as the Fed chair. $342 million was spent in this market. You can already bet on the 2028 election for president. And Donald Trump has $3.6 million bet on him. He can't even run legally. $232 million has already been spent gambling on the next election. So yeah, it's not a great time to be a person with a brain or morals. It's not a great time to use logic or reason. And yeah, here's a clip about just the people who are profiting from all of this.
Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust our government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out there in the public.
Elon Musk has access to it.
Yeah, but Elon Musk is part of the administration that is helping us identify.
Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust our government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
They're that dumb. Here's another clip I thought was interesting about Trump talking about the housing market. I'm sorry if this seems scatterbrained at the end, but I think I'm kind of trying to paint a picture of the market.
About housing, because nobody ever says this. I am very protective of people that already own a house, of which we have millions and millions and millions. And because we have had such a good run, the house values have gone up tremendously. And these people have become wealthy. They weren't wealthy. They become wealthy because of their house. And every time you make it more and more and more affordable for somebody to buy a house cheaply, you're actually hurting the value of those houses, obviously, because the one thing works in tandem with the other. And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the value of people that own a house who, for the first time in their lives, are walking around the streets of whatever city they're in, very proud that their house is worth $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. Now, if I want to really crush the housing market, I could do that so fast and people could buy houses, but you would destroy a lot of people that already have houses. In some cases, they've mortgaged their house, and the mortgage would be very low, and all of a sudden the mortgage without any changes becomes very high, and they end up losing the house.
He says it. He's just explaining how rigged everything is. But like that he knows he could make housing affordable and he won't do it. The level of corruption is so high here. So yeah, like I'm struggling because it's hard to want to buy anything in this market. I don't trust this market at all. I think we're at an all-time high of corruption in markets and greed. And there's that old saying from Warren Buffett, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. Well, everyone's greedy right now, so I'm fearful. But I'm not going out there and just shorting everything. I'm waiting until it's obvious. But man, is it starting to seem kind of like things are rolling over. I think it'll be really interesting to see the next few the quarterly results from companies like Nvidia, because we have this potential rev strat in the NASDAQ 100, which I think is the thing to watch. Before I go, I do want to talk about GameStop. GameStop has a very interesting situation unfolding. Michael Burry from The Big Short has announced that he has taken a stake in GameStop. He actually sold it early, back during the original short squeeze, so he didn't actually participate in the short squeeze. But now he is he's back in, and he had some nice things to say about Ryan Cohen, the CEO. But then Ryan Cohen actually gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal yesterday where he says that they are eyeing a large acquisition. He didn't say where or what, but he did say it would be in the consumer or retail space. Now, Ryan Cohen has a new compensation package at GameStop that's kind of like Elon Musk's $100 or $1 trillion pay package, where Ryan Cohen stands to make $35 billion if he can get GameStop to a $100 billion valuation with $10 billion of earnings at that time. Now, it would take a lot of money to get them there, right? This is a stock that's trading at around $11 billion right now. They have around $8 billion of cash on hand, so they have the cash where they could make an acquisition. But he claims that he has a plan. And he may actually do something about it. Like I said, Michael Burry disclosed a stake earlier this week. He has a Substack where he posts some articles. He called it Final Stop. The jig is up. He said, he did say, I own GME. I've been buying it recently. I expect I am buying at what soon may become 1 times tangible book value, 1 times net asset value. He added, I'm not counting on a short squeeze to realize long-term value. He also said, I believe in Ryan. I like the setup, the governance, and the strategy as I see it. Ryan Cohen had bought a million shares last week, and then he went on WSJ and pumped his stock up. So he made like $4 million off of the stock that he just bought. But he's a billionaire. That doesn't mean anything to him. But yeah, GameStop's back in the mix, is what I would say. Which means we have to look at the chart. GameStop is trading inside year. So we're still inside of that range from 2021. We haven't gotten out of this range. Trade inside year, then it rev stratted, they went above it, outside year, now we're back inside. So to the downside, we have this, we have a broadening formation we can pay attention to, but to the upside, I don't know if we're going to get there anytime soon. So the levels to watch, above $35.81 would be a buy signal on the yearly chart. Below $19.93 would be a sell signal on the yearly chart. Stock is currently trading for $24.85. It had a low of $20.16 per year and a high of $25.01 on the year. Trading inside quarter, same low to watch, that 19. It would have a continuation of the quarterly sell signal below 1993 and a buy. Not on the quarterly chart. Green on the month. Green on the week. Back-to-back weeks. You had an inside month and up with a continuation this week. So you look for a further continuation above 24.87. Look, I've been covering this stock forever. I will keep covering it. I do find it to be one of the most interesting stories in the market. I don't think it's a short. I don't really like it from a long perspective because Ryan Cohen has deluded us multiple times. There's no telling that he won't do it again, especially if they're going to have to make this acquisition. He also bought Bitcoin at a horrible time. They're down about 20% on their Bitcoin holdings. So yeah, I don't really recommend people own GameStop. But I also, if you own it, I wouldn't tell you to sell it either. I just think it's kind of dead money. And that's what that long-term chart kind of shows us. It's been languishing between, outside of 2 years ago when it got up to 65 and Keith Gill was a billionaire for a day. It's kind of been between 15 and 35 for 4 years. But I guess we got to keep an eye out. He's looking at something. He says it's going to be a large acquisition. Maybe he buys a company that's less shitty than GameStop. But yeah, it's been stuck in this range for a real long time. And yeah, I guess before we go, this is more just a thought of the state of where we're at. These are the people in charge of our economy.
All right, thank you. You'll make it back one way or the other. You're all going to do very well. I think really very well. Marco just gave me a note. Go back to Chevron. They want to discuss something. Go ahead. I'm going back to Chevron, Marco. Thank you, Marco.
Was there a question, Mr. President?
Yes, go ahead, Marco. What are you saying here?
Mark, if you can update us on operations in the ground and with the appropriate approvals, what you might be able to achieve in the next.
So this was a meeting where Trump was talking to all the energy executives that he briefed about the invasion of Venezuela before Senate. Marco Rubio was trying to tell him discreetly to ask the CEO of Chevron to speak, and Trump read the note out loud in front of all the press. These are the people in charge of our economy. They are robber barons, but they're also fools. I have breaking news here, guys, so I guess I'll break the news while I'm here. The Senate has passed a funding deal, but the government will still partially shut down at midnight. Federal agencies and give lawmakers more time to dispute over Department of Homeland Security. So the funding of ICE has become a problem, obviously, after the murder of multiple United States citizens. Keith Porter Jr. in Los Angeles on December 31st, and then Renee Good and Alex Petrie in Minnesota in this month. The government will shut down. Package of 5 bills plus a 2-week stopgap measure for the Department of Homeland Security funding did pass, so DHS will be funded for 2 more weeks. They will not. The deal's passage in the upper chamber will not prevent a partial shutdown from beginning a few hours later. The House of Representatives, which must approve this version of the bill, isn't scheduled to return to Washington until Monday. So part of the government will be shut down this weekend. Johnson, House Speaker Mike Johnson, says he hopes the House will pass the bill on Monday. A partial shutdown of federal operations are set to begin. Sorry, I'm reading this with you guys at midnight tonight. Long-term funding of DHS will be determined later, but they've been given a two-week stopgap funding for Department of Homeland Security, which includes ICE. Yeah. So that just broke. I don't know, guys. It's hard for me to like sit here and like think about the future when things are so fucked right now here in the United States. But I think it's pretty obvious. This market's broken. This country's broken. I mean, honestly, Scanner says I gotta stop getting paid in dollars. I mean, a weak dollar would equal more pounds for you. Or, I guess not. No, yeah, I guess you're right. You want a strong dollar. Huh. I don't know, you're England. Or, you Euro. Euro. Yeah, I don't know. The euro's kind of fucked too. All currencies are kind of fucked. Which is why we see assets where they are. But you're right. Dollars are not a great way. I don't know. Maybe I should start paying people in Nintendo stock. But yeah. So as always, yeah, we will probably be trading bottle caps soon, Scanner. As always, I try to tell people to manage their risk. So when I talk about investing in these things, if you're in debt, take care of your debt. If you have outstanding obligations, worry about those. As Marshawn Lynch would say, take care of your chickens. Yeah, it's just really hard. This is the hardest market I've ever traded. And I always say trade the market you have, not the market you want. And the market we have is broken. It's a broken market. Watch that NASDAQ rev strat. If we get a break below on the Qs, let's go back to the Qs chart. A break below 607.05 on the NASDAQ 100 will likely trigger a further sell-off on the monthly chart for the month of February. You got to pay attention to earnings results coming out. Amazon's still to report. Google's still to report. Nvidia is still to report. Lots of other tech companies, lots of other video game companies are reporting. Intrepid investors may have opportunities to take advantage of that sell-off today that happened in the video game sector. If you don't think that Google is about to take over the world with that generative AI stuff, there might have been an opportunity to buy Nintendo today, CD Projekt Red, Take-Two Interactive, maybe Unity. But hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate you guys. I'll be back in a month. We have let's see, when is the last trading day of February? How the hell did iOS updated while I was streaming? How dare you, Siri? Let's see. February 27th is a Friday. So that'll be the next Game Trader Live, long form stream. I'll be doing earnings reaction streams. So if you saw me this week, talking about Tesla or talking about Apple, I'll be back next week to do that with another slew of company results. I'll try to wrap up earnings too. I didn't really get to Facebook here. They beat earnings. But whatever. I talked about it on the previous stream. So there's more of me to come. I do think I'm kicking around the idea of doing the stream more often because I think the markets are kind of so volatile that they lend to that. I might just also make videos that I post directly to YouTube where I talk about specific topics. Maybe next week with Nintendo earnings, people might be interested to hear my thoughts on that. We also have our podcast This Week in Switch 2, where I will be talking about Nintendo financial results on that show. We're also writing all sorts of great stuff. So yeah, keep it locked on Shack News across all the different platforms. There's the website, there's our YouTube channels, there's our social media platforms. And yeah. Take care of your chicken. Everyone be safe out there. It's very cold in a lot of parts of the United States, so hang in there if you're in one of those regions. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm kind of losing my voice here. But I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.